The Maury Island incident, America's first UFO death mystery. Six craft appeared over Puget Sound in 1947. Days later, two investigators examining the evidence were found in a burning wreckage. Long before the phrase "flying saucer" enters the American lexicon, before Roswell becomes synonymous with government secrecy, a harbor patrol operator witnesses something in the skies above Puget Sound that sets in motion a chain of events ending in flames, death, and the first template for what researchers will come to call the UFO investigator death phenomenon. June 21, 1947. Harold Dahl operates his patrol boat in the waters near Maury Island, Washington. The day is overcast, the sound quiet except for the rhythmic pulse of his vessel's engine. His son accompanies him on this routine patrol, along with the family dog. What happens in the next minutes transforms this ordinary patrol into the opening chapter of America's most troubling UFO case. Six donut-shaped craft appear in the sky above Dahl's boat. They hover in formation, metallic and silent, against the gray Washington clouds. Dahl estimates each craft measures approximately 100 feet in diameter. Five of the objects maintain their position with apparent ease, but the sixth craft behaves differently. Its shape appears distorted, as though something internal has malfunctioned. The craft descends lower, positioning itself directly above Dahl's vessel. Without warning, the struggling craft begins discharging material. What falls from the object resembles molten slag metallic debris that rains down onto the water and across Dahl's boat like burning hail. The material strikes the vessel's wheelhouse, damaging the structure. Fragments strike Dahl's son, injuring his arm with sufficient severity to require medical attention. The family dog, unable to escape the falling debris, is struck and perishes on the deck. Dahl reacts with the instincts of a trained observer. He retrieves his camera and begins photographing the craft above him. The slag continues falling, some pieces hissing as they strike the cold water of Puget Sound, others clattering onto the boat's deck where they can be collected. After several minutes, the distressed craft appears to stabilize. It rejoins the formation, and all six objects depart, vanishing into the distance at speeds Dahl cannot estimate. When the immediate danger passes, Dahl examines what has fallen onto his vessel. The debris appears metallic, slag-like in texture, some pieces still warm from their discharge. He collects samples, securing them aboard his boat. The photographs he has taken document the craft in the sky above him. His son's injury requires treatment. The dog lies motionless on the deck. Whatever has happened in the skies above Maury Island, it has left physical evidence and physical harm. The following morning, June 22, Dahl experiences something that will become as significant to researchers as the sighting itself. A man arrives at Dahl's home. The visitor wears a black suit. He drives a new black 1947 Buick. The man's appearance is unremarkable except for one detail. He knows what happened on Puget Sound the previous day. The conversation that follows chills Dahl more than the sighting itself. The man in black discusses the incident with precise knowledge of details Dahl has not yet shared publicly. The visitor describes the craft, the debris, the sequence of events. Then the warning comes. Dahl is told, in language that leaves no room for misinterpretation, that he should not discuss what he witnessed. The implication is clear. Silence is expected. The man departs in his black Buick, leaving Dahl to contemplate whether he has just received a warning or a threat. Dahl reports the incident to his supervisor, Fred Chrisman. On June 22, Chrisman travels to Maury Island to investigate Dahl's account. What Chrisman finds corroborates the extraordinary claim. Debris matching Dahl's description litters the beach. The slag-like material is present in quantities sufficient to confirm that something significant occurred. Chrisman collects additional samples, securing physical evidence that now exists in the possession of two harbor patrol operators in Washington state. 3 days after Dahl's sighting, on June 24, 1947, pilot Kenneth Arnold reports seeing 9 unusual craft near Mount Rainier. Arnold's sighting receives immediate press attention, and introduces the term flying saucer to American vocabulary. What the public does not yet know is that Arnold's famous sighting occurred 3 days after Dahl's encounter, making the Maury Island incident the earlier event in what will become the summer of 1947's UFO wave. Arnold's involvement with the Maury Island case comes through Ray Palmer, a publisher interested in unusual phenomena. Palmer sends Arnold to Washington to investigate Dahl's claims. Arnold, now famous for his own sighting, interviews Dahl and Chrisman. The Harbor Patrol operators show Arnold the debris samples. They describe the craft, the discharge, the injury, the death of the dog. Arnold finds the account compelling enough to contact military authorities. The United States Army Air Force responds by sending 2 intelligence officers from Hamilton Field in California. Captain William Davidson and First Lieutenant Frank Brown arrive in Washington to conduct the official investigation. The officers interview Dahl and Chrisman extensively. They examine the debris samples. They review the photographic evidence Dahl has collected. The investigation proceeds with the methodical thoroughness expected of military intelligence work. Davidson and Brown collect samples of the slag-like debris. The physical evidence is secured for transport back to Hamilton Field, where it can undergo proper analysis. The officers compile their interview notes, document the witness statements, and prepare to return to California. On August 1, 1947, Davidson and Brown board their B-25 bomber for the return flight. The debris samples are aboard the aircraft. The flight departs Washington, heading south toward California. Somewhere near Kelso, Washington, something goes catastrophically wrong. The B-25's left engine catches fire. The aircraft, now crippled and burning, begins losing altitude. Davidson and Brown attempt to maintain control as flames spread through the bomber. 2 crew members aboard the flight manage to parachute to safety. Davidson and Brown do not escape. The B-25 crashes near Kelso in a fireball that consumes the aircraft and everything aboard. Captain William Davidson and First Lieutenant Frank Brown perish in the wreckage. The debris samples from Maury Island, the physical evidence collected from the slag discharge that injured a boy and ended a dog's life, are destroyed in the fire. The crash investigation attributes the incident to engine failure. No evidence of sabotage is found. The official conclusion: mechanical malfunction, tragic coincidence, but researchers examining the case note the timing with deep unease. 2 military intelligence officers investigate the first reported UFO debris recovery in American history. They collect physical evidence. They board an aircraft with that evidence. The aircraft crashes and burns. The investigators perish. The evidence is destroyed, all within days of the initial incident. The coincidence pattern is established. The Maury Island incident becomes the first case in American UFO history where investigators pursuing physical evidence lose their lives under circumstances that eliminate both the investigators and the evidence they collected. Whether the crash results from mechanical failure or something more sinister remains a matter of debate among researchers, but the outcome is indisputable. The evidence is gone, the investigators are gone, and the case enters the historical record shrouded in death. Harold Dahl's response to the tragedy adds another layer of mystery. Following the crash, Dahl publicly retracts his account. He states that the entire incident was a hoax, that he fabricated the sighting, that no craft appeared over Puget Sound. The retraction appears definitive, the case apparently closed by the principal witness's own admission of fraud. But Dahl's private statements tell a different story. In conversations with researchers conducted away from official channels, Dahl maintains that the sighting occurred exactly as he originally reported. The retraction, he confides, was not voluntary. The man in the black suit, the warning delivered the morning after the sighting, the implicit threat in that conversation. These factors, Dahl suggests, compelled his public denial. The truth, he indicates privately, remains what he first reported on June 21, 1947. the photographic evidence Dahl collected never surfaces. Whether the photographs were confiscated, destroyed, or simply lost to time remains unknown. The slag samples not collected by Davidson and Brown apparently disappear from Chrisman and Dahl's possession. No verified pieces of the Maury Island debris exist in any public collection. The physical evidence, like the investigators who attempted to study it, vanishes. The Maury Island incident establishes multiple templates that recur throughout UFO investigation history. It represents the first documented Men in Black encounter, a mysterious visitor in dark clothing arriving to silence a witness with insider knowledge and implied threats. It represents the first investigator death case, researchers pursuing UFO evidence perishing under circumstances that destroy the evidence they collected. It represents the first debris recovery claim, physical material discharged from an unknown craft, collected by witnesses, then lost before scientific analysis. Fred Chrisman's subsequent life adds additional questions to the case. Years after Maury Island, Chrisman's name surfaces in connection with Jim Garrison's investigation into the events surrounding President Kennedy's passing. Whether this connection holds significance or represents another coincidence remains contested among researchers, but it adds to the complexity of a case already layered with unanswered questions. The crash site near Kelso yields no secrets. The wreckage of Davidson and Brown's B-25 is cleared, the investigation concluded, the site abandoned to history. Maury Island itself undergoes no formal examination for remaining debris. If slag from the craft's discharge still exists on the beaches or in the waters of Puget Sound, it remains unidentified and uncollected. 75 years after Harold Dahl watched 6 craft hover above his patrol boat, the Maury Island incident remains unresolved. Did Dahl witness an authentic unknown craft discharging metallic debris, or did he fabricate an account that spiraled beyond his control? Did the man in the black Buick represent official suppression, private intimidation, or Dahl's own invention to explain his retraction? Did Davidson and Brown perish in a tragic mechanical failure, or did something more sinister eliminate 2 investigators who possessed physical evidence from a UFO encounter? The questions persist because the evidence does not. The debris burned in a crashed bomber. The photographs disappeared. The witnesses retracted or passed away. What remains is a case file documenting the first time in American history that investigators pursuing UFO evidence ended their lives in flames, taking that evidence with them into destruction. The legacy of Maury Island extends beyond the specific facts of the case. It establishes the darkest pattern in UFO investigation: the death of researchers, the destruction of evidence, the silencing of witnesses. Whether these elements result from coincidence or conspiracy, they create a template that appears repeatedly in subsequent cases. Investigators approach UFO evidence, and sometimes investigators do not return. In the waters of Puget Sound, where Harold Dahl's patrol boat once drifted beneath 6 hovering craft, the tides continue their eternal rhythm. The slag that fell from the sky, if it ever existed, lies somewhere beneath those waters or rests in collections unrecognized for what researchers believe it might represent. The truth of what happened on June 21, 1947 remains as elusive as the craft Dahl claims to have photographed. The Maury Island incident stands as both beginning and warning. The first case, the first deaths, the first evidence lost to flames. Whether it represents genuine contact with unknown intelligence or elaborate deception matters less to its legacy than what it established. The phenomenon of investigators pursuing truth and finding instead only questions, danger, and sometimes an ending written in fire. If you found this case compelling, subscribe to Vanishing Roads for more documented paranormal investigations from around the world. This story was created with AI assistance based on documented case files. All events reference real investigations and reported incidents.